Welcome into the Sandbox. I'm Tammy J. Bond, your host. Excited to have you join me today for this, what I think is probably going to unnerve some people episode called Drawing a Line in the Sand. And it's about the difference between management and leadership and how we have maybe put the cart before the horse in too many of our organizations in the pursuit of healthy culture, which I believe in, but I think we might be getting a little lopsided. And when you compare it to the results of where we were 50 years ago and as we've progressed and the difference that we've put in, how we've put a stronger emphasis on leadership than management, it might be driving our organizations into a future we don't want to explore. So we're going to take a look at that in the Sandbox today. Grab your pen and paper, kick off your shoes, step on in, dig your toes in. Let's get comfy as we draw a line in the sand. Hey, welcome into the Sandbox. So I'm going to dive into a topic that I think is going to be kind of challenging to some of you today, but I'm going to have some fun with it because I've been working on it for a while. I've been having several conversations about it. And here's my line in the sand that I want to draw with you today. I want to draw a line in the sand to say that I think we have overemphasized the importance of leadership and we have devalued and underutilized the effectiveness and the value of management. What do I mean by that? We are so focused these days on building healthy cultures and how it's the responsibility of leadership to do that because they're the ones that cast vision. Okay, yeah, but they can't achieve said healthy culture without the important factors of good and effective management. I see that we have overemphasized the importance of leadership development without the essential functions of what management and good management looks like. Management of people, management of processes, management of projects, management of bottom line budgets. That's at a manager's level. And oftentimes is looked down upon and frowned upon from those in a leadership position. Everybody's vying for a few positions at the top and they want to climb the proverbial ladder to get to the top and not putting in the work to actually get to the people and see how the people on the boots on the ground, how they're doing with the work or with the current economy or with their personal lives. How are they actually doing? We're not asking those questions enough, in my humble opinion. When I go in and I see teams that are at odds with one another, it's always the difference between management and leadership because managers feel that leaders are out of touch and leaders just feel that managers aren't doing enough. But the leaders aren't asking any kind of thought-provoking questions or going and sitting in the office of their managers to see what is being done and how is it being done. They got promoted into a position because they interviewed well. They got promoted into a position because they, were around the office and showed up and maybe they're really great talkers. There's actually a statistic I heard the other day about that your extroverts, are the ones that tend to get promoted into leadership positions because they talk their way into it. But the most effective ones are the introverted ones, the ones that are the quieter, head down, going to get my work done, are more effective and efficient. Why? Well, because they're not talking, they're not bragging or expanding on their what they conquered. They're just doing the work. And I thought that was really interesting. It was actually, I read the book, which I highly recommend, by Adam Grant, The Hidden Potential. It's a great book. And he's got some really great insights in there from an organizational psychology perspective and it's one of the things that further ignited me on the difference between management and leadership and why have we so overemphasized, it feels, the importance of leadership in today's world economy or offices around the country, around the globe. Why? We've placed this emphasis on these vision casting leaders, which I wholly agree with, but we have removed the responsibility of the management from them of the day to day. And we've solely placed that on the managers. And we're not even equipping our managers well enough to manage the day to day or how to understand how to communicate the difference. And I've said this for years. It's one of the things that made me passionate about getting out of Cubicle Nation and getting into the work that I do today, which the demoralized middle manager of the world, man, they need to be heard because they're trying to do a very challenging task. They have to communicate up to a leader who potentially is unaware, and they have to communicate down whatever they've heard from the leader that doesn't necessarily know how to be effective in their communication or is giving unrealistic expectations from the top because they're out of touch with what's happening down on the front line. And so that demoralized middle manager is stuck in the middle and they're being pulled two directions. And I love middle managers. I applaud them because they have one of the hardest jobs in my mind that there is. And that's how to communicate effectively up and down, especially when you don't necessarily have a bird's eye view even of what's happening up, and you are only seeing what the people that you're leading are experiencing and going through, and you're trying to communicate and advocate for them, but someone above you might not be listening because it doesn't fit their vision. It doesn't fit the goals that they set without understanding your frontline staff. Anyways, that's a whole nother sort of topic to go on, but I want to say it this way. Your managers, the managers of people, the managers of process, the managers of the bottom line, to ensure that your goals are being achieved, are important to have at every level of the conversation. Y'all, you've created your own divide between leadership and management. And when you look back over the history of the last 50 years and how leadership has evolved and risen up and stepped over management, right? We now put higher emphasis on leadership and not as much focus anymore on management like we did 50, 40, 30, even 20 years ago. Management is your key to success. And if you're developing up leaders without the skills of being effective at managing, that's where I'm saying we're drawing a line in the sand and it's time to stop. And sure, you could say, Tammy, is it chicken or egg? Which came first, leader or manager? Or what's the problem here? The problem is that we have a lot of leaders out there that have title, they have responsibility of title, but they don't have the emotional connection or the responsibility to manage because they don't know how to connect to the frontline staff that are getting the job done. And they rely on the managers for that. And there is a big void. And when you have a communication breakdown between managers and leaders, your frontline staff are suffering and it impacts trust in a negative way. When we can't communicate effectively, but also when leaders aren't willing to get out there and roll up their sleeves, get out there and be a part of it. I was having a conversation just the other day with someone about that very fact, that when you as a leader or CEO, any title above manager, get out into the workforce, roll your sleeves up and see what people are doing. Don't just go for the photo opportunity to say you did a drive-by throughout the office, but actually sit down and see how people are doing their work and see what resources they need or what resources might be missing so they can be more efficient and effective to do their job. When you as a leader do that, you build trust. You make your management team look good, right? Those that report to you, you make them feel like, okay, you care. I can trust you. This is a good thing. You also show the frontline staff that you do as well. And then obviously you got to follow through on whatever commitments you might make out of that. But even if it's just going and showing up and then having a conversation, you're going to get a lot further. The other part of this is that I think is important to know is that I absolutely believe that leadership drives a healthy culture. But I also believe that there's a lot of momentum not to be discounted from the frontline staff. So your leadership might be driving that healthy culture. They might be promoting it. But if they don't have good relationships because they don't know how to do the relational side, which is a management side of relationship throughout their downline, if you will, right? On whatever the org chart is, that the part of the org chart that they represent, that they lead, if they're not doing an effective job of communicating through, it doesn't matter what vision they're casting for a healthy culture or what culture they're promoting. Because what's going to happen on your frontline staff is they're not going to believe it. And therefore, the change is going to be very difficult. So when I go into organizations and see that we're having a challenge with culture, yes, I talk to the leaders, but I also go down to the frontline staff because I want to hear the view from their chair. And then I bring that view and I share it up at every level so that we can start the dialogue around what's missing and the reasons why we probably aren't having a healthy culture change that we want, because somehow we missed it because we're only focused on our narrow view from above and not a wide and broader view from getting down into the trenches with your people. So the line in the sand, friend, is this. I'm going to be talking about the difference between management and leadership and which one is, not that one is more effective than the other or more important, better word, not more important than the other. It's about why have we placed so much more emphasis on leadership than management. And what's funny is that when you actually do the research on what kind of trainings people are looking for, yeah, there's a lot out there of people that are searching for leadership training, but there's more that are searching for management training on how to be more. And those are the individuals. They're wanting to know, how can I be more effective as a manager? Well, the best way to do that is to, in last episode, we talked about it, get a mentor. That's a great starting point. But there's a lot of resources that are out there and that are coming your way, even from the Sandbox, about how to develop those skills. But I want to challenge you, if you are a leader by title, you're in a leadership role by title, how are your management skills? And I would also challenge you to ask the managers around you how they perceive your management skills are. Because until we start bridging this divide between leadership and management, we're going to have some challenges in the workplace that are going to continue to expand and grow. And you're going to continue to see higher rates of turnover and people leaving because they don't feel that they can trust and they don't feel that they are able to be a part of the solution versus being part of just the get her done, task driven. You're just going to be given a task. Now, people want to be seen, they want to be acknowledged, they want to be understood. And the way that you do that is by taking the time to get your people management skills up at whatever level of the organization you might be in. Okay, coming up, I'm going to be talking about title envy and how it plays into the breakdown between leadership and management in your organization today. Stay tuned. More to come. All right, next up, I'm going to dive into title envy because it's something that I see a lot. And it's sort of funny when I see it in organizations in the workplace, because it seems funny, but it actually is really quite can be quite devastating. It can really be tragic for a team. And I know those are big words, devastating, tragic. Why is that? Because what title envy in the nature of it is when I have a manager in a position that is working the day to day, and they're doing great at managing the tasks at hand for the team that they lead. And then you have a leader that is not transparent in their communication. It causes a divide between manager and leader. And manager can be like, I'm working so hard and that person gets paid a lot more than I do as a leader. And now I want that. Like, I'm envious of the title of leader because it comes with this perception that there's more pay, more opportunities, right? More development opportunities, all of those things. And we can create this title envy where people are going through the workplace and all they're thinking about isn't about the job that they have at hand to do, or even about the opportunity that they might want to step into from a, what does that mean for me and my skill development? They're looking at it as, I want the title. I'm really focused on getting that title because when I achieve that title, then I'm going to have some level of huge satisfaction and happiness. And the reality is, when we start focusing on the titles and we create that jealousy within our workplace, we're taking our eye off of the importance of the work that we're doing right now. And what causes title envy? One of the biggest things is lack of transparency. Lack of transparency shows up when, as leaders, we're not communicating effectively our tasks, our roles, the responsibilities that we have, and the workload that we bear. We put more on the manager to take on more because we might be, as the leader, we might have we're over capacity, right? We have too much work and not enough capacity to be able to get it done, but we're not communicating that in a healthy and effective way to our managers or to our team around us about how we can share the burden of that. And then what that creates is frustration for the leader, but then the manager feels like they're just being dumped on with no real explanation, and they're not seeing or hearing how busy the leader is. Okay. So that divide can create this thing that I call title envy. And it shows up in the place where manager is like, well, gosh, if he just has, if my leader has all this time or my director has all this time to be able to pass work, on to me, they must have a lot of freedom in their day because I don't see what they do because we're not meeting to talk about it. So you want to be careful of title envy because you could be wishing for something that at the end of the day you don't really want. But it also creates this lack of trust and divide, which when there is lack of trust, we know productivity goes down. When there is lack of trust, we know that we make mistakes within our team, that we miss key indicators when a project could be going off track because we have a lack of trust. We don't talk about it. We're not really looking at the issues before us. The other piece about title envy that I wanted to bring your attention to is when you have divisiveness on your team. And you've probably been in those meetings where you've heard people say, well, that's below my pay grade, or, well, that's above my pay grade. I'm not supposed to be a part of that decision. It's above my pay grade. We now have created a form of title envy because I'm lowering myself or belittling myself in my mind and the picture I've created about what my abilities are within the team or responsibilities are within the team, because I've attached it to what somebody else's title is based on what I'm seeing, based on what I think I know, but not actually based on any fact most of the time. Title envy is selfish and title envy is disruptive. So, how do you change it? So, what do you do? Well, the first time you hear that's below my pay grade or that's above my pay grade, I'm going to have a very bold conversation with that individual. And I've had those conversations before. Well, what does that mean to you? And why do you perceive that to be true? And if it was your pay grade, how would you handle it? Great. Here's how I see you. And then I'm going to affirm that what I see them and why it is important that they actually are aligned with, and we're not judging each other on pay grade or titles. We're actually looking at how do we support each other for the effectiveness and efficiencies within the team to get the work done. See, I've been in the meetings where we also throw around titles. So people in positions of power throw around their own title. Well, I'm a director. Well, I'm a VP. And here's what I get to do as the VP. And in by nature of doing it belittles the other people in the room and belittles people that aren't even in the room, but it gets back to them. So that's another form of title. I can have title envy over my own title and be really proud of that title, and it can get in the way relationally when I'm trying to lead, cast vision, or manage within an organization. See, that's why I go back to I think that we have really hyped up leadership and not placed enough emphasis on the effectiveness of proper management in the leadership role and the effect and how to be effective, how to be a good communicator, how to show empathy, how to be that active listener so that I am collaborating and connecting with people at all levels. I'm not about the title. I don't care. I have actually said this. I don't care about title. I want people that are collaborating and connecting together to work together at all levels of the organization. I want to create environments where that happens. When we create environments where we're only focused on titles and positioning, that title envy starts to run amok. We're creating an environment that's unhealthy. You want a healthy culture? Check the titles at the door. roll up your sleeves and get into work together collectively. Title envy can turn your best, most like well-oiled machines, right? Can turn it on its side because we get jealous of who has the title, who's got the corner office, who has stock shares that I don't have at my position level. That stuff gets in the way and corrupts your culture. And the way you work with that is to start being transparent and talking to people about their value and their contribution and why it matters, no matter the title. We just want to make sure our people know their contribution matters. It makes a difference, and let them know it often, and be transparent with what you see, what you need, and what you want. You will attract more bees, right? That way. What is it? More bees with honey, or is it bears with honey? I never really understood the right order of that one, but you get what I'm saying with the analogy. We want the right people in the right seats, but we also want to make sure we're attracting the behaviors because we're modeling it, and we're not making it about a title or a position, but we're making it about behaviors and people. All right. So, coming up in the next segment, I want to get into how I believe that there is not enough emphasis on healthy management in your company today. And that might just be one of the catalyst elements that's disrupting the performance for all. Stay tuned. All right, I am going to round out today talking with you about why I believe to be true that we do not place enough emphasis on healthy management and some of the reasons why I believe that. We've talked about that leadership and management have distinct yet very complementary roles. At least I hope that they do in your organization. They ought to. The healthiest teams have those complementary roles very well defined, and they're partners together. It's not I'm better than you. It's not I'm got a bigger title than you. It's we complement each other. We know that management focuses on operational efficiencies and execution, and they do that with great attention to detail, right? We also know that leadership is about setting the vision and casting that vision and inspiring and motivating teams to produce so that we're all in alignment with the strategic direction of the company. We know that both management and leadership are crucial for the success of the organization. We know that organizations thrive when there's a balanced integration between management and leadership qualities. Let me say that again. Studies show that organizations, when there is a balance between the integration of management and leadership qualities, they thrive. Okay. Effective collaboration between management and leadership contributes to that holistic success. Why is this important when it comes to healthy management? Because when we have those things well established, we're developing our people to be managers of others, self and others. And in so doing, no matter their title or position in the organization, when we're developing up healthy management, then we're developing up healthy people to lead others to success. And that's really what I know so many of us want in our companies and in our organizations. We want health. We want a healthy culture. We want people working side by side together, collaborating, because we know that that brings creativity and innovation into the workplace. We know that that brings harmony into the workplace when we're collaborating. When there's transparency, that builds trust, right? We know that based on what we've already talked about today, this title envy, when that gets in the way, it hinders collective success. So what do? You want to foster a culture of recognition and transparency and a shared purpose. And the way that you do that so that you mitigate title envy, among other things, you do that by developing your people as effective in their management style, no matter their title. And you level the playing field because you place an emphasis on healthy management practices, all done the same way so that we are successful. I've seen so many times where, especially when it comes into corrective action, And this is where I say we are not placing enough emphasis on healthy management. When managers are needing or leaders are needing to put in place any form of corrective management with a team member because their behaviors are not meeting the standards that have been set, they struggle to have that proper documentation. They struggle to have the conversation. They struggle to even identify what exactly are the behaviors that are not meeting the standards. Well, most times when I see that really drastically, it's because we haven't identified the standards that we're wanting people to meet yet. That's a management practice. You're not born as a leader. You're not born as a manager. You're developed that way. And that's why I firmly believe that it's our responsibility individually to develop our own management skills, no matter our title or position in an organization. Organizational health, this is one key piece I want to make sure we touch on, involves that strong workplace culture. And we know that's driven from leadership. But I've challenged that to say it can come from all levels of the organization. I've seen sweeping cultural change happen at a grassroots level in organizations. It's beautiful when that happens. It only can happen if the leaders at the top are self aware, have checked their egos at the door, are not hung up on their titles, are open and collaborative with their people for the success of all. When they can be that way, then when that movement comes from other elements or other levels in the organization, they're able to get a hold of it because they're talking to people. Remember, I talked about it's really important that we roll up our sleeves and get out there with our people. That creates healthy management structure when we do that. When we put an emphasis on healthy people, healthy managers, healthy leaders, and we define what that looks like in our organization, and we get everyone to participate in what that means, we then are creating a culture of expecting that we are healthy and we are making choices and decisions to be that. So we're putting an emphasis on healthy management. Management and leadership, while they have very distinctive roles for the success of an organization, it is important that we are looking at the holistic approach to the individuals, not just the title or position. Let me say this. The emphasis on leadership has grown due to increased workplace complexity. I got it. So when you look back over the last 50 years, the emphasis on leadership from just managing, right, or just frontline workers, it's grown due to the workplace complexities. It's grown due to shifting organizational cultures and the rise of visionary approaches. I thought that one was interesting when I was doing the research. What do you mean about visionary approaches? Well, we've taken more and we've celebrated more and we've promoted more of that visionary approach to leading organizations, which is great. But it's also important to recognize the importance of effective management, and it remains critical for the stability and operational excellence in your organization. So you might have a strong leadership development program, and I go in and I deliver those to organizations. But every program I deliver has a strong emphasis equal to or greater than anything about leadership. It's who are you as a manager of self and others. You've heard me say it before. You have to lead yourself well before you can lead others. And to do that, it's important that you're gaining those skills to manage and regulate you and the people around you, so that as you promote up, or you may already be up, but you want to gain those skills so that you're building those things like trust and you're building that stability in the organization that it so desperately wants. One of the other pieces that's important to know when we're talking about the difference of, or the importance of developing healthy management styles and healthy managers and healthy management approaches, it's important that we understand the qualities, right? The leadership qualities that you're wanting with both your managers and then by title leaders. We want to keep that focus on that dynamic workforce, yes, but you also want to make sure you're integrating that dynamic workforce into the dialogue and the conversation. And we do that that growth piece, we do that by encouraging a culture of continuous learning and development. Not something that's just driven from HR. And to all my friends out there that are in HR, the listeners that are out there that are in HR, I appreciate what you do. There's a tactical side that we need you to do. But that development, that learning and development to nurture your individuals really comes from, it needs to come from the top. That we set the expectation that we have a healthy learning and development opportunity, whether that's inserting the mentoring, whether that's a formal program. It's not just it's not an HR driven thing. Actually is something that is within our culture that we set that expectation for, so that people can then develop the skills to seamlessly switch between management and leadership roles. And when we do that, oh my goodness, we're setting everyone up for a higher sense of purpose and a higher sense of worth in the workplace. So here's one of my final thoughts for you. It's a quote that I read that I thought, okay, well, this was really perfect. In the pursuit of success, let's trade title envy for a culture of collaboration and recognize the value each brings, and together redefine what it means to grow and rise. I love that. And what I appreciate is the strong emphasis on both roles. It's important that we know that when we are looking at nurturing a healthy management culture, a healthy organization, and we're placing emphasis on how to be healthy in my management or my leadership role, we're raising the expectation, and even, I'm going to say, the vibration. We're raising the vibration for all in our workplace to achieve more, to feel seen, understood, heard, and to feel that they have a voice, no matter the level, to be able to contribute to a healthy culture in the organization. Well, thank you so much for joining me in the Sandbox today. I hope that you enjoyed this conversation around drawing a line in the sand between management and leadership. And there's going to be more to come. I have some future guests coming on in the coming months on this very topic, because it's a topic that I am really passionate about exposing. It's important that we level that playing field and not have so much separation or segregation between the titles, and that we really focus on healthy management overall, management of self, management of team, management of priorities and organization. That builds healthy cultures. And your leaders and managers and people within all different levels of your organization are hungry for that. So give it to them. And if you don't know how, there's a lot of resources out there to help you identify how to exactly build a healthy management culture within your organization. So thanks again for coming into the Sandbox today. It would mean so much if you just took a moment to click share, click like, write a comment or two wherever you listen to this content. And I want to also invite you to take the link and share it with a friend, somebody that you think could actually benefit from this content that we shared here in the Sandbox today. And remember, friend, leadership and management, it isn't something that you're born with. It's something that you grow into. So thanks for taking the time to grow into your next level of leadership in the Sandbox today. Make it a great day.